Yeah, we're talking ring muscle-ups, and we're going to give you 5 steps or 5 stages to the ring muscle-up using the School of Calisthenics framework. So looking at movement preparation, particularly around the wrist for that false grip, movement patterning, learning the skill of the pull, the transition and the push, and then the applied strength and the capacity strength, and then finishing off with the pied de resistance using the locker tool of the band-assisted ring muscle-up.
These are much easier than you might think, guys. If you can put these stages in place, getting a ring muscle up is a really achievable way to start to get into this kind of movement. So go through the process we're going to show you, and I reckon if you put some strength in there, you're not going to be a million miles off. Yep.
Okay, one of the first things with the ring muscle up is getting into this false grip position. Just to explain why that is, the ring itself is going to move, it's unstable. So rather than rotating our hand on the wrist like we might do in a bar muscle up, we're going to put the wrist in the position we want to end up in at the top of that, top of our transition or top of our push out, and then we're going to rotate ourselves around the wrist, and that's where we're going to start. Okay, rather than us moving the hand on the wrist. So to do that, rather than grabbing the wrist here where we would normally rather than grabbing the ring here where we would normally in the fingers, it's going to go across the palm on a diagonal around the base of the palm, and then to get into that position is going to take an awful lot of wrist flexion. Okay, so that allows me to then rotate my wrist on top of the ring rather than the hand itself moving. So Tim's down here mobilizing out his wrist, trying to get into more flexion at the wrist, so it's palm facing up, and he's starting to mobilize out the joint itself and stretching all those muscles on top of the forearm, helping him to then get into a better position. If you can't create that good wrist flexion, what's going to happen is you're going to fall away off that false grip, and the ring is going to move from being on there in your palm and it's going to fall away into your hand, and at that point you've got no chance. Okay, so we're going to work some movement patterning now. We're going to teach ourselves the skill, but at the same time we're going to be able to practice holding this false grip position. And when you're first starting out, it can be hard to take your whole weight whilst being in this false grip position because it feels awkward, it feels weird. We don't spend a lot of time flexing that position and trying to hang. So having the feet on the floor in this exercise is going to help not only with you just building up that strength and feel for your false grip, but also the pattern of pulling, transitioning forward and pushing out. So Tim's going to stand directly in between the rings, hand goes on top. So he's starting in his sort of end position. He's then going to wrap his hands around, elbow comes in front of the body rather than out to the side. Then he's into his false grip position, feet directly beneath him. Then he rocks back into basically a bodyweight row, but you can see that hand position, the ring is at the base of his palm, yeah? And then he's going to row thumbs to chest, chuck his head through forward until he's directly stacked above himself, and then push out from that transition. So just show him one more. So he drops back in, maintaining false grip, so hand hasn't slipped out, thumb to chest, head and chest through between the rings, utilizing that space between the rings, then pushing out. Okay, so when we're talking about applied strength, particularly in this ring muscle up, we're looking at how well you can hold false grip and can we do a full pull up, getting our thumb to our chest. So this is going to be our exercise for that. So Tim's got his false grip, he's then going completely hanging. Can he drive? Tim's good at these, so he can drive nice and he can hold that position at the top. But we need to make sure we can get that thumb to touch the chest. So that's your cue. Can I get my thumb to touch my chest? To get to there, you're golden. We can move into our transitions and our push-outs. The final stage of the ring muscle up is pushing out of that deep transition position, which is basically a deep ring dip. But just those that haven't used a lot of rings before, because of that instability, because they move, one of the first things we want you to do is just jump up to the top and just feel what the top is like. Can you keep your thumbs pointing forward rather than turned in? Because when the thumb turns in, the shoulder turns in, which is what you don't want. Can you hold that position, or are you all over the place? Okay, once you feel comfortable there, then we're looking at getting some deep range dips. The lower you can go and the strength you've got to come out of this, if you can get low like here where Tim, his elbow is actually higher than his shoulder, that means his transition can be lower, easier, and then he can getting out of that position takes a lot of strength. Important that you'll see that he's leaning forward slightly, elbow pointing back rather than shooting out to the side. So a couple of cues on them: thumbs forward, elbow pointing backwards, lean forward into it. Don't try and take yourself straight down, or those elbows will flare out to the side and your hands will turn in.
If you go for that ring hang position, guys, and you're hanging and your shoulders and your hands are going all over the place, just stick with it. Just get good at that solid kind of hang, because the body's just trying to work out how to stabilize that shape. You'll get there, you'll soon start shaking a little bit less, and then you're going to find progressing into that dip is a lot much easier.
So the final step for you is working on the transition, but you're going to be able to incorporate the whole of the movement. But we're going to use a tool from the locker, which is the assistance tool. So we're going to use one of these bands, and you're going to wrap it around underneath you. It's just going to help you up and tilt through that transition phase. So the full thing being thumb to chest pull up is then going to throw head and chest through. I like to imagine I'm heading a football. Tim's not a football fan, so he doesn't like that. But it's going to get yourself through. That helps that elbow go back, and then you're going to push out from that position. But the band is just going to help you with that transition.
So you just use it like a cradle, guys. So get it strapped around. You're going to lift yourself up and just pop your bum into it like a swing. Get your false grip, and then you can move through that position. So pop up, and then sit in, false grip.
Key, make sure you don't lose that. Can't slip out into your fingers. So it's thumb to chest, chest through, drive out. Piecing it all together, but just with that, again, that little bit of help from the band, okay? Couple of little things from me. When you set up, just make sure the rings are reasonably low, somewhere around your hip height, otherwise it makes it really difficult to try and get that band around your bum. And then you've seen Tim, he's good at these, he's nice and smooth, but when you're starting, form police are going to be out, and it's a case of you're not going to pause there, you're going to get up and you're going to try and use some momentum to get yourself through, but that's just at you at the start trying to generate some force in the movement that you're going in, okay? So work on those 5 stages, and we look forward to seeing some ring muscle-ups from you guys. Okay, so when you get into your full muscle-ups, we're going to show you what that looks like in a second. When we're in our dead hang position here, we want you to start like this just to start with, just for your false grip. The true sort of start position and the form police will want you to turn out here, but that is just so much harder when you're starting. It allows your arm to be straight and your elbows to be straight, but what you're going to find is your hands are going to fall out and you're going to lose that false grip. So rather than to be sort of failing at the start, I want to encourage you to get the actual movement, and then you can work on improving your false grip and perfecting your technique as you go. But we're going to start here, so you're going to have a slight bend in your arm and your elbow, but at least I can then start to work into some muscle ups rather than me starting like this, you going down and then you get into there. I can hold it, but you'll probably end up slipping out into there.
Drinks on me, we've got the builders on me. Squad deep, but we mob out. When we mob out, it's on me. I don't need no new friends, I've got all I need. I said I don't need no new friends, but I've got all